Alice. Been a dietitian for 5 years. A little bit about my background. I have a degree in nutrition science from Virginia Tech and a culinary degree from Concordia University. So at Hy-Vee, they call me their culinary dietitian. So I focus on all things food related, recipe development, cooking classes, product demonstrations, and cooking classes like this. So I thank you all for coming. Today's class is going to be all about clean eating. So how many of y'all have heard that term before? Kind of a new buzzword term. It means a lot of different things to different people depending on, what part of the country you live in and so forth. But we're going to talk more about what that means in a balanced lifestyle after I do the food demonstration. So for now, we're going to think of clean eating as foods that are minimally processed, as close to their natural state as possible. Okay, and we're going to make 3 foods that follow a clean eating lifestyle, and you're going to get to try everything, ask questions about it, and then we'll talk more about clean eating once the food is made. So feel free to take notes on your recipe packet. We'll do the worksheet at the end, and we will get started. So the first recipe I'm making for you today, which I actually think is the second one in your packet, is a fruit compote. The recipe calls it a stone fruit compote, but really you can make this with any fruit that's in season. And a component of clean eating is eating seasonally, eating fruits and vegetables that are in season, fresh, picked, and it's usually cheaper that way and they taste better. So we're doing strawberries in our fruit compote today because strawberries are in season, but in July you could make this with peaches, or you could make it with plums, nectarines, blueberries, whatever you like. Just use the recipe as a guideline framework for making this compote. So in this pot, I have about a pound of sliced strawberries. Now you can use fresh or frozen, and I've basically been cooking them down, simmering them so they get thick and syrupy. Okay, and what I like to use compotes for is just a nice clean topping for waffles, pancakes, muffins. I love to serve this on my oatmeal in the morning or on yogurt with some granola. There's lots of ways you can use it. And in my strawberries, I'm simmering some whole spices. I've got 2 whole cinnamon sticks in here, and I've also got 1 flower of star anise. How many of y'all have ever had that before? It's a spice often used in Asian seasonings. Asian 5-spice has star anise in it. It has a sweet, floral, anise-like smell, kind of like fennel or tarragon. And so I'm going to pass this jar around and let y'all look at it, smell it. Star anise tastes delicious in fruit dishes and anything with notes of citrus flavor. It enhances the flavor of citrus, and we're going to be adding some fresh squeezed orange juice and orange zest to our compote when it's done. So this is simmering down. It's getting thick and syrupy. It usually takes about 15 to 20 minutes, and you'll want it to coat the back of your spoon when it's done. That's how you know when it's done. And we're sweetening it with honey, about a half a cup of honey. Honey is a great, minimally processed, natural sweetener that you can use in baking, sauces, dressings, toppings. And I love the way honey tastes with strawberries because it's got a light, clean flavor. So we're going to add about half a cup. This would also be really good on homemade sorbet or frozen yogurt. Nice topping for that, or as a strawberry shortcake topping. So I'm just going to stir that in and keep it simmering for a little while we move on to the next recipe. So whenever I add fresh citrus to a dish, if it's been cooked and it's hot, I like to add the citrus at the very end when I take it off the heat because I'm able to taste the flavor more. It tastes brighter and fresher that way. So we're going to add our orange at the end. Any questions about that so far? All right, we'll move on to the banana bread breakfast cookies. Okay, how many of y'all have had cookies for breakfast before? Yeah, a lot of us do. They're easy, convenient, you can eat them on the go. So a lot of us have had cookies for breakfast before, but maybe not necessarily a healthy cookie. These are healthy cookies that you can have for breakfast. And they're made of only 2 ingredients. You can add things to them, which I have added a few things to these I'll tell you about. But the base of this cookie dough is ripe mashed banana and oats, just old-fashioned rolled oats that I have ground into a coarse powder in my blender. Okay, so you can grind these into a coarse flour in your blender, or you can use a food processor and get it even finer ground. So really a lot of recipes, especially gluten-free recipes that call for oat flour, you can save a lot of money by just making your own oat flour at home in the blender or in the food processor and not pay $8 a bag for 4 cups of oat flour. But if you're following a gluten-free diet and you know that you have a sensitivity to gluten, you want to make sure you buy oats that say certified gluten-free on them. Because while rolled oats are gluten-free, some of them are rolled on machinery that has been used to process gluten-containing ingredients. So you want to make sure they're certified gluten-free. At Hy-Vee on the aisle with oatmeal, Check cereal brand now has a certified gluten-free rolled oat. And it's a lot cheaper than the Bob's Red Mill gluten-free rolled oats, about $4 cheaper. So just keep that in mind. And that's what I use to make this flour. So this is 1 cup of oat flour that I ground in the blender. And to that, I have 1 ripe banana. I'm just making half a recipe right here. Your recipe calls for 2 bananas, but this is a ripe banana, and I've added about 2 tablespoons of almond butter to flavor it. On your recipe, you see that some of your add-ins can be shredded coconut, cocoa nibs, peanut butter, any type of nut butter, dried fruit. It's really up to you. This is a very versatile recipe. You could add dark chocolate shavings to it if you like chocolate with bananas. That would be fine. So I've added some almond butter, some cinnamon, and some vanilla extract to this. So the cookies you're eating today are just 5 ingredients: mashed banana, the oat flour, almond butter, cinnamon, and vanilla. And I can't wait for you to try them because they really do taste like banana bread. So I like to make these cookies on the weekend so that they're ready for the week. And to me, just 2 of these cookies isn't all that filling, so I like to put a little bit of peanut butter in between them and make a sandwich. So it's like a peanut butter cookie sandwich. And that's a way to get a little bit more protein, or you could dip them in a cup of yogurt, and that way you have a balanced breakfast. Kids love these. They're great to send with your kids on the bus. They are freezer friendly, so once you bake them, just wrap them up in a container, keep them in your freezer, and take them out as you need them. You just need to put them in the fridge for a couple of hours to thaw, or thaw them on the counter. That's perfectly fine because they don't contain eggs or anything you'd worry about contamination with. In this cookie, the banana acts like the egg. So I'm just getting this all mashed up and creamy. And these are wet ingredients. And to that, we're going to add the oat flour. And I like to stir it in a little bit at a time. I can make sure all of it gets nice and moist. And you can scoop these out like a cookie, but you could also bake them in a brownie pan and do a bar, cut them into breakfast bars. So it's really up to you. And then maybe like melt peanut butter and drizzle it on top of your bars to make it pretty. I don't know. Up to you to be creative and make it your own recipe. I love recipes like that where I can starts out as Sally's recipe, but by the end it's Whitney's recipe, right? These are great for kids to help make too, because it's just bananas and oats, so you don't have to worry about them getting raw egg all over the place or softening butter in order for you to make them. Kids will not mess these up. So, it takes a little while to get all the flour incorporated in. I like to do it with a fork.
Did you say 2 tablespoons of almond butter?
Yeah, 2 tablespoons for half the recipe. So if you wanted to add a nut butter for the whole recipe, I would add about a 1/4 cup. And make sure if you're using a natural nut butter, the kind that has the oil on the top, that it's stirred very well, not too runny. But if it is, you can just add more oats to make it the consistency you want. So as you see, this is becoming the consistency of regular cookie dough, right? Looks like regular cookie dough. I've got that all nice and mixed together. And I like to bake them on a baking sheet covered with parchment paper. I didn't bring any parchment with me, but if you don't have parchment paper, you could just spray it with a little cooking spray so they don't stick. How many of you have a cookie dough scoop at home? This is one of my favorite kitchen tools because it makes sure all my cookies are the same size, and when I'm measuring my portion and doing nutrition analysis on these recipes, I want to make sure they're all the same size. This is a 2-ounce cookie dough scoop. Makes a 2-ounce cookie. So I just scoop those onto the pan, and we bake them at 350 for 9 to 12 minutes. I like to take these out when they look just underdone, because as they're cooling on the hot pan, the residual heat will continue to cook them and let them set up. You know how when you make like a soft butter cookie, you take it out when it still looks a little underdone, but it sets up just fine once it's done, because you don't want these to dry out. So once I have them all on a sheet, I like to just press them down slightly with my hand, or you could make a crisscross pattern with them in a fork, because since there's no butter in these, they will not spread out like regular cookies do. They'll stay in a ball. So if you flatten them out a little bit with your hand, they'll cook more evenly. Alright, so those are those. We put them in the oven for 9 to 12 minutes, and this is what they look like when they're done. Okay, so I'm going to move them over here, and Sarah is going to serve things once I'm all done. What do you think you'd like to add to this cookie dough?
Chocolate.
Yeah. In here, if you wanted to add a little bit of caffeine, if you're eating it for breakfast. And green tea would add a nice earthy note of flavor to the compo. I kind of think it tastes like dirt. But if you wanted to, if you're not a sweet person, you could add notes of earthy flavor, or you maybe could do matcha green tea powder, stir that in at the end. You could use any juice that's 100% juice, especially fresh squeezed fruit juice. Or I've added a little bit of berry liqueur to this before when I was making it for a nice brunch, and that really gave it a nice flavor. I'm also going to add just a little bit of citrus zest. Anyone know what this is? Yeah, a microplane. You really need to, this is one of my top 10 most essential kitchen tools, because I use it to zest citrus, but then I also use it to grate fresh hard cheese like Parmesan or Pecorino Romano, and I love it because it makes nice fluffy shavings of citrus zest. And when you're zesting citrus, you want to stop right before you get down to this white part, because that's a very bitter tasting part of the orange, and it's just much easier to avoid getting the bitter part when you use a zester like this as opposed to just a box grater. I don't feel like it zests.
What's that called?
This is called a microplane. It's written on the side. You can get these for about $10 at Target or Walmart. I think I got mine at Target. So I'm just trying to get about a tablespoon of zest. Usually a whole orange will yield about 2 tablespoons of zest. So half an orange is a full tablespoon. And if you're doing a lemon or a lime, you'd want to use a whole one for a full tablespoon. I'm just going to stir that in. Oh, it smells so good. Can you smell it? Yeah, it's making my mouth water. It smells so good. Okay, so just depending on how sweet you like things, you could add more or less honey. If you're not a fan of honey, coconut sugar is a great minimally processed sweetener to add to sauces. It dissolves really well. So you could add coconut sugar to this. We sell that at Hy-Vee in the health market, and it looks very similar to brown sugar. So that would be another option. You could do maple syrup or molasses. Really up to you. I'm going to grab a napkin and get the orange juice off my hands. So, what would your favorite fruit combination be to use in this compote? Strawberries? What about dark, sweet summer cherries? That would be really good. Or maybe cherries and blueberries for the 4th of July. It's kind of like we're making jam here. We just aren't using any sugar. We're not putting it in sterilized jars. Same thing as making jam. Once you have this made, you can keep it in the fridge for, it'll probably keep 7 to 10 days in the fridge and use it as you need to. You can also freeze it, in Ziploc bags and thaw it like you would soup. But it's a great thing to make when you find fruits that are in season that are on sale. Like when we see organic strawberries for $2.50 a pound. Stock up on them and make a bunch of this, and you can have it all year round if you freeze it. All right, any questions so far? Okay, I'm going to get started on our salad. We are making a strawberry wild rice salad with an orange poppy seed vinaigrette. And I'm going to teach you how to put it together in a big bowl for a lot of people, but my hair's on my way. I'm going to teach you how to do a mason jar salad to pack for your lunch. How many of y'all have seen those on Pinterest? Mason jar salads, yeah. You layer the salad component, put the lid on, take it for lunch, and then when you're ready for lunch, you just shake it up and dump it out on a plate. So I'm going to show you how to do that today. So for our salad, this is a vegetarian salad. It's made with all gluten-free ingredients. I knew there were a few people in here that requested gluten-free. So the base of our salad, where we're going to get whole grain, complex carbohydrate, and some protein, is this sprouted red wild rice blend. So this is Hy-Vee's Ruby Wild Rice Blend. It has sprouted brown and red rice. When I say sprouted, it just means it was picked when the rice was at a younger age. And so they say that it has higher nutritional benefit that way. Whole grain rice is also higher in fiber. So we've got a lot of fiber here, good whole grain carbohydrate, protein, and it's gluten-free if someone is following that diet. And then I have a herb marinated feta cheese. Feta is a sheep's milk cheese, and what I love to do with it is marinate it in herbs and citrus zest overnight, and it gives the feta such a fragrant, aromatic flavor. The recipe calls for basil and mint. We were out of mint today, so it just has basil, and then I added orange zest to this. But you could add tarragon, you could add chives if you like a nice mild oniony flavor in your salad. You could do cilantro if you're doing tacos, like cilantro and lime marinated feta. So it's just fresh orange zest. I use light extra virgin olive oil and then mint. And once I added all that to the feta, I just kind of massaged it lightly with my hands to work it into the cheese, and then this has just been sitting overnight. And so if you make a marinated cheese, you can use it throughout the week to sprinkle on salads, on omelets. Maybe you could put it in pita bread with some hummus for like a Greek pita sandwich. That would be a great, clean, some baby arugula. Here, how many of you have had arugula before? Pretty much everyone in the room. How would you describe this lettuce leaf? The taste. It's kind of bitter, peppery. It's got a peppery flavor, kind of like mustard greens. Not as strong as mustard greens, but the peppery flavor of arugula, I think, pairs really nicely with sweet, juicy fruit. And arugula is a very sturdy lettuce leaf, so it's great to pack in a salad for lunch. We could mix this salad together today, and it would still taste great tomorrow. Arugula takes 2 to 3 days to wilt. So it's great to use in salads that have hot components to it. Like if you were serving this hot, you could use hot rice and add the arugula in, and it would wilt the arugula. So it's a nice, sturdy spring lettuce leaf to use. And so I'm going to make the salad in the mason jar and then show you how to do the vinaigrette. When you're doing a mason jar salad, you want to add your dry ingredients to the bottom. So in this case, that would be the rice. So I would add about half a cup of rice to the bottom of the jar. And then I like to do crunchy next. So if we were doing nuts, whatever you want to do. I know your recipe calls for pistachios, but I grabbed some sunflower seeds today. So we do about a tablespoon of sunflower seeds or nuts. And then a couple ounces of cheese, maybe, not a couple ounces, a couple tablespoons. 2 tablespoons of feta. And then next you would do your fruit. And for a single serving, I'd maybe add 1/3 of a cup of fruit. And then fill the rest with your lettuce. And I like to bring my dressing on the side. That's just my personal preference. Some people, when they pack a mason jar salad, will put the dressing on the very bottom so that when they turn it upside down, the dressing coats all of the salad. I like to just bring mine on the side, so I use less that way because I like to dip my salad in my dressing. Like, put the salad on the fork and then dip it. I find that I use less that way. But it's really up to you. So pack in as much lettuce as you can, because these greens, arugula has like 20 calories per cup. You can eat a ton of it without many calories at all. So I like to pack them in. And then you just put your lid on top, and you've got lunch in a jar. And it looks really pretty, right? Mm-hmm. I would look forward to eating a lunch like this. I think about it all morning. It's nice when you can look forward to your lunch. So when you're ready for your lunch, you just open it and dump it out on a plate. We're going to put it in the bowl. Might need a little help getting it out. And lunch is served.
Wow.
All your coworkers will be so envious when you bring your lunch like this. It looks good, it smells good. This is going to be the type of lunch that helps you feel energized after eating it and not like you need to take a nap in the afternoon, which is great. So I'm going to just put the rest of our ingredients in the bowl. This was 1 bag of rice that I pre-cooked, and then we're going to toss it all together. And this feta, oh my goodness, it smells so good now that it's been marinating. How many of you have spouses, family members that would go for something like this? Several? Okay, some people kind of on the fence. It's an acquired taste, getting used to salads. So you could easily use spinach in this. Maybe some butter lettuce.
Yeah, I would have to serve it. I do that, and I have to have like 2 or 3 recipes.
Sunflower seeds are a great alternative to people with nut allergies. I cannot tell you how many people I see come in the store with nut allergies. They can't have any peanut butters or almond butters or anything. And so I love to recommend sunflower seeds as a source of protein, and also it's got a lot of vitamin E in it, which is a healthy fat. And so I don't know if you know this or not, but you can make your own sunflower seed butter at home. So I like to toast the sunflower seeds in the oven till I can smell them, and then I put them in a food processor and I grind them for about 4 to 5 minutes. Sounds like a long time, but you have to grind them that long so that they start to, the oil comes to the outside and they turn into a creamy, smooth sunflower seed butter. And from that point on, you can flavor it with whatever you want. I like to add some vanilla extract to mine and some cinnamon, and it's just a great alternative to nut butters for people who have allergies. And also the sunflower seed butter you find in the store is processed on equipment that processes nuts, so there's the cross-contamination concerns. So we always have to keep that in mind. So we're gonna make a mason jar vinaigrette now for our salad. And what we're gonna use is some fresh orange juice. So you can use the orange that you zested for the feta. So zest your orange, put the zest on the feta cheese, and then save the orange to juice for your vinaigrette. That way you use the whole fruit. So I'm going for about half a cup of orange juice here. How many of you make your own vinaigrettes or dressings at home? A couple? What do you think the benefit is into making your own salad dressing?
Cheaper.
Yeah, it does save a lot of money.
Tastes better.
Think it tastes better? Yeah. I do too. Less sodium. Yeah, exactly right. You're controlling what goes in it. From a clean eating standpoint, there's no preservatives in homemade salad dressings or vinaigrettes, and so you're being much more mindful of what you're eating. Because when you have a nice, natural, clean salad like this, you don't want to ruin it with a bunch of floppy, fatty salad dressing. So making your own is a good way to keep it healthy. So we're going to add a little bit of Dijon mustard to our jar. Dijon mustard, when you're making your own salad dressing, you know what it serves, what its purpose is? Any ideas?
Gives it some zing.
Yeah, it gives us some taste. Yeah.
Gives it good.
It gives it some body, so it's not just like a watery texture. It gives it some body. It helps thicken it. And in culinary school, we learned that things like Dijon mustard and honey act as emulsifiers in homemade salad dressings. So this is our acid, this is our oil. We want something that's going to bind that together and keep them from separating. And so when you're making homemade dressings, you can use Dijon mustard or honey to bind those together. You could also use an egg yolk, or you could use mayonnaise, but we're lightening things up here. So we're using a little bit of Dijon mustard and a little bit of honey. And once you get your emulsifier in there, you just want to mix that up with a little bit. And then you add your acid. So we're adding orange juice in this case. But you could do balsamic vinegar, you could do lemon juice and minced garlic, or you could do apple cider vinegar. Really, the choice is up to you. And then I like to get the acid nice and combined with the emulsifier before I start to add any oil in. This will help the dressing not to separate. So I like to use 2 parts oil to 1 part acid. So the volume will double when I add the oil. So this is extra virgin olive oil, cold pressed olive oil. This is the oil that comes from the first pressing of the olive, okay? So there's a lot more healthy fats in this olive oil. And there's also a stronger olive flavor. So you want to use the extra virgin olive oil for salad dressings and marinades, not necessarily for heating, because it has a very low smoke point and it will burn when it's exposed to really high heat. So keep that coarse ground kosher salt in my cooking. Any idea why? Coarse salt as opposed to fine salt? Not necessarily because of the processing, but I find that when I add coarse salt to vegetables and meat, the coarser granules don't dissolve into the food as fast. They stay on the outside surface of the food. So the salt may be the first thing that touches my tongue, and if I can taste just a little bit, I often use less. So for salads, I might use some sea salt flakes, like flaky sea salt. So if I sprinkle on just 3 or 4 flakes, it stays on the outside of the food. That's the first thing I taste, so I don't have to use as much salt. Fine salt just dissolves right into food and dissipates. So if you're making like sauteed chicken breast or a steak, this nice coarse salt and a coarse ground pepper will make a flavorful seasoning crust on the outside and not dissolve into the meat. So you don't have to use as much. So I'm going to put the lid on and then just give it a good shake. Easy peasy, right? You can do this. Now since this has fresh citrus juice, it's only going to keep for about 3 days. But if you were using a vinegar, this would stay good in your fridge for 10 days to 2 weeks. So it's nice and combined. We're just going to drizzle that over the dressing. I'm not going to use all of it at first. I'm going to toss it together and see how that looks. It smells amazing. Now I would like to add some sweet mint or tarragon to this if I have some. I definitely recommend trying to grow some herbs in a pot at home because they're so expensive in the store. It's just outrageous how much buying fresh herbs can be in the store. So it's worth a couple hours researching how you can grow them at home. All you really need is some good sunlight for a few hours. And pot it down. So that looks nice and dressed. And we are ready to serve some samples. Are y'all hungry?
Yeah.
Yeah. So while Sarah is, I'm gonna help her. So while we're doing this, let's look at your worksheet and talk about clean eating. First question. All right. After we talk, what does clean eating mean to you guys?
Seasonal
You want me to do this out again? Seasonal ingredients. Yeah, good job. Close to nature as possible, minimally processed. Yeah, exactly right. Any other ideas? What would you look for on a product to determine if it's clean or not?
Words you can pronounce.
Yes, exactly. Words that you know what they are. If it has red number 4 in it or whatever those are, do you think that's something you should be putting in your body? Probably not in large amounts, no. You want to minimize that as much as possible. So what's the next question?
Is it necessary to eat clean 100% of the time?
Okay. Do you think it's necessary to eat this way all the time?
I've heard of like an 80-20 rule.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say. Someone mentioned the 80-20 rule. Have y'all ever heard of that before?
Yes.
The 80-20 rule is basically just a way to balance your eating, balance your lifestyle. You hear a lot of dietitians and nutritionists say moderation. Eat this in moderation, you'll be fine. What does that mean? That's very vague. Moderation may look different from one person to the next. So the 80-20 rule defines moderation. So 80% of the time you want to eat clean. Foods that are minimally processed, as close to their form and nature as possible. So that means basing your diet on plant foods, whole grains, fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds. And then you can include some low-fat dairy, things like cottage cheese, Greek yogurt, fresh cheeses that don't have a bunch of additives in them. Is Velveeta a cheese?
No.
No. Good job. Everybody gets an A+. Velveeta is a cheese product. So it's very different from being cheese. So you want to choose natural cheese. Yeah, or easy cheese. That is not cheese either. I'm sorry to break it to you. I definitely had my share of that as a kid. So then back to the 80-20 rule. You're 80% of the time choosing lean proteins, like eggs. What are some lean meats we can choose?
Chicken.
Turkey. Good. Fish. Exactly. We're in the land of beef. What are some lean cuts of beef we can enjoy? Sirloin. Yes. Good. Yeah, top round for roast. Anyone like flank steak? Flank steak is really lean. So is flat iron steak. If it's the holidays and you want to splurge on a nice cut of meat, a beef tenderloin would be really lean. Or beef tenderloin is what they cut filet mignon out of. That would be really lean. So 80% of the time we're choosing those types of foods, and 20% of the time we're eating what we want, what we're craving, without guilt, because we know that 80% of the time we are feeding our bodies fuel that nourishes and sustains and preserves the only body that we have. So 20% of the time you can go out for pizza and ice cream, or chicken wings and french fries at a tailgate. But let's define that even more, okay? So how many of us eat 3 meals a day? 3 meals a day times 7 days a week, that's 21 meals a week you're eating. 80% of that is 17 meals a week. So 17 meals a week, you're choosing foods based on how they nourish and sustain your body. That leaves 4 meals a week to have whatever you want, to have those cravings or those indulgences. And that's what helps a lot of people be successful with living a healthy lifestyle, making right choices, because when you diets cause you to deprive yourself, okay? And it's not fun to feel deprived. A lot of times when we deprive ourselves, we end up overindulging. So 80-20 rule allows all foods to fit in your diet in a healthy way. So that was a really good thing y'all brought up. What's the next question?
What does healthy moderation look like for you?
Okay, well, we just talked about that, but if you don't want to do 80-20, what do you think would work for you, like for your lifestyle?
Saturdays are free.
Yeah, a lot of people like to pick a day of the week as a cheat day. That's a good strategy. Any other ideas? How many of you use the MyFitnessPal app where you log the calories? Okay. Some people like to use what's called discretionary calories for their splurges.
I'm supposed to pick up on Christmas.
So if they get to the end of the day and they have 300 calories left in their daily calorie allowance, they spend it on a treat or a dessert. So that's another way to practice moderation by counting up your calorie intake. We're good? All right, awesome. So that's another way. Good job. What do y'all think of the food so far? Are you proud? You like it? Can you taste the basil in the salad? Yeah. What are you picking up in the cookies? Has anybody tried the cookie yet? Banana. Does it taste like banana bread? Maybe a little. What do you think about the compote?
Delicious.
Sweet enough?
Yeah. Is there a way to make that into like a fruit roll-up or like a bar
The
for
compote?
kids? Yeah, I don't know if
Yes.
that hardens into something.
Yes, you're on something right there. A lot of people are making homemade fruit leather with pureed fruit, and so they cook the fruit down like this, and then they puree it till it's smooth, and you spread it out on a big baking sheet, and you basically dehydrate it in your oven at very low temperature, like 200 degrees, for a couple of hours, and it dries it out into fruit leather. So you can do that with cooked down pureed fresh fruit. I would Google that homemade fruit leather. I've seen it made with mangoes, kiwis, grapes. It's really great. So definitely look that up. I know we sell some at Hy-Vee that have like beets and ginger and carrots mixed with fruit, but you could make it your own for so much cheaper. That's a great idea.
Do those cook down as well?
The fruit leathers?
Like the beets and carrots and ginger and stuff, if you wanted to mix that in?
Yes. What I would do is probably boil them till they're tender and drain them, the beets and carrots, because they don't release any liquid to just
Right.
cook in a pot like that. You could roast them, but when you're adding things like beets and carrots to fruit, you don't want the flavor to be too strong. So steaming them or boiling them would be a great way to add that in their fruit leather. Good question. Glad you like the combo. Like I said, you can make it more sweet or less sweet. So let's make this practical. How to start cleaning up your diet. Number one, we've already mentioned this, pay close attention to the labels. If it has 15 ingredients on them and you can't pronounce 10 of them, it's probably not a clean eating choice. You want it to have as few ingredients as possible, and you want to have an idea of what those are. Citric acid is fine. That's natural. That's just used to prevent oxidation. That's fine. But if you know it's a chemical ingredient, you probably want to avoid that. Pick 1 to 2 things to change at a time, and then add more as you achieve success. I find that people who are most successful with healthy lifestyle changes are the ones who start small. They pick 1 or 2 things, just 1 or 2 to change. And then once that's become a habit, they add more. So one easy change you might could make today. Try 1 new whole grain per month. That's easy. You can buy a bag like this and use it up through the whole month if you want to. And the Whole Grains Council, wholegrainscouncil.org, actually has this awesome grain of the month calendar. So it shows you what grain to try that month, and then it gives you a lot of great, interesting information on it with recipes. And so a grain that I tried back in the fall was sorghum. Sorghum is an ancient gluten-free grain that's actually used to make sorghum molasses, but it's the grain. And so that was one that I tried. At Hy-Vee, we're now carrying farro. Farro is a great, nutty, ancient grain that kind of looks like an oat. That has a great flavor. Or you could try buckwheat or maybe bulgur wheat. Just try 1 new grain every month. And if you're unsure about it, buy it in a store that has bulk bins. Like I know Hy-Vee and Whole Foods, they have bins where you can buy just a little bit and see if you like it before you pay, $8 for a big bag. That's one easy thing. What's another easy thing we can change today?
By the season, maybe?
Build your grocery list around what's in season. So a lot of farmers markets will publish seasonal produce charts telling you what's in season in what month. And so when you're writing your grocery list, pick out 3 vegetables that are in season and 3 fruits. And for variety, make it different the next week. Don't buy the same fruits and vegetables every week, just so you have an opportunity to try different things. What's a vegetable that's in season right now we might could try? Or fruit. Asparagus, yeah, exactly. What's one that you've maybe never had before? Spring. Has anyone ever had bok choy? Asian cabbage, that'd be a good one. Rhubarb, that's something I'm wanting to try in the spring. Believe it or not, I've never cooked with rhubarb before. So that would be a great one to try in the spring. Another easy change. Maybe you want to make a goal that this month you're going to make all your salad dressings. You're not going to buy any more bottled dressing. That would be one easy thing you could change right now. Moving on, plan, and plan some more. The key to following the 80-20 rule, getting those 17 meals in where they're clean, is planning your menus ahead of time. Don't get to Wednesday and think, okay, what do I feel like making for dinner? If you've planned ahead of time and bought the ingredients and you have them there, you're going to be much more successful with following a clean eating plan. This is something I struggle with. If I don't take an hour out of my time on the weekends to go grocery shopping and plan my menu, I suffer with achieving my goals during the week. Kale pureeing their kale, sauteing their kale. Kale's the only thing they buy. Kale is great. It is a superfood. It's really rich in vitamins and minerals. But we need as much variety in our diet as possible. And kale is a winter green. It's supposed to be enjoyed in the winter time and in the fall. So give up kale and maybe try some arugula this spring. You can make pesto and smoothies with arugula just like you can kale. What would be another magical food? There's one in particular I'm thinking about that I get asked about every day.
Tell us.
Coconut oil. Everybody wants to cook everything in coconut oil. Their eggs, they want to toast things in coconut oil, fry things in coconut oil. Coconut oil is great. It's a very unprocessed, unrefined oil, but at the end of the day, it's a fat. And fat has 9 calories per gram. Carb and protein only have 4 calories per gram. So it's very dense in calories. And if you're slathering coconut oil on everything because you think it's going to do all these great things for you, you're going to gain weight because you have calorie excess. So a lot of these vegan foods are made with tons of coconut oil, like just as much butter. And they have even more calories than lightened up lower fat foods. So you've got to be careful not to put all your eggs in one basket. Still keep the moderation mindset. And the second thing, just because the food is clean, like coconut oil, it's minimally processed, it doesn't mean you can eat as much as you want. You still got to look at the number of calories and make sure it fits in your diet in a balanced way. Okay? So, hopefully you all have learned some practical, easy strategies for eating clean that you're excited to implement. Don't be overwhelmed. Just pick 1 to 2 things at a time. Like I said, I'm at the Williamsburg Hy-Vee, so stop by anytime to ask questions. The vlog, the last 2 recipes you worked on, sweet cayenne, that is my cooking vlog. I post lots of recipes on there, so check back for more healthy eating tips. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
That's all I have.